Nutrition in plants. So this is the topic of our today's chapter, nutrition in plants. First of all, you should be knowing what do you mean by nutrition. But before nutrition, there comes a term which is nutrient. Now in your 6th class, you have already read about components of food. Components of food. What are the components of food? Nutrients are the components of food which a living organism takes from its surrounding and utilizes it for energy, for carrying out different life processes, as well as for growth and repair of its body parts. So, nutrients, as you have read in your class, that can be carbohydrates. You have read in your 6th class, carbohydrate is a nutrient. Then we have fats. Then we have vitamins. Then we have proteins. Minerals. Along with this, there are other components also. It can be like roughage also, as well as some amount of water. All these are the components of food, but all are not considered as nutrients. Now the process of taking these nutrients, the process by which a living organism takes these nutrients is called as nutrition. So here in this chapter we are reading about how the plants, they take the nutrients from its surrounding and then how they utilize these nutrients for their own life processes. Then we have the modes of nutrition. Modes means the ways by which an organism takes its own food. Now here we have 2 modes of nutrition in our syllabus. One is autotrophic mode of nutrition. Autotrophic mode of nutrition is shown by certain organisms, and then we have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. These are the 2 main modes of nutrition which we are going to discuss in this chapter. Now, autotrophic mode of nutrition. This mode of nutrition is carried out by the organisms which have ability to produce their own food. Like auto means self and trophic means to synthesize. So the organisms which are having ability to produce their own food, they utilize autotrophic mode of nutrition, and these organisms are called as autotrophs. Autotrophs is the term used for the organisms which are showing autotrophic mode of nutrition. And what comes in this? Basically, plants come in this category because plants have the ability to produce their own food. So, plants are the most common autotrophs which are present on our planet Earth. Then we have heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Details of these we will be doing later in the chapter. This is just a brief overview. Hetero means other and trophic means to synthesize. Now it means the organisms which are not having ability to synthesize their own food but depend on other organisms for food. Those are called as heterotrophs, and they adopt heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now what comes in this? In this basically we have animals, and human is also a social animal, so human being is also considered in this category only, that it is showing heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now there comes a question in your mind that human being is preparing its own food, like we prepare food in the kitchen. But no, that is not called as the mode of nutrition. Already prepared material we are using as ingredient, and then we are cooking the food. We are not synthesizing the food, we are just cooking the food. So we are not considered in the category of autotrophs. We will be considered as heterotroph. So broadly we have two modes of nutrition, autotrophic mode of nutrition, then heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and about this we will be reading in detail in the chapter now. Before we discuss about the modes of nutrition in detail, first you should be knowing about one main thing, and that is the cell. Now cell is the building blocks of living organism, all living organism, whether it is plant, whether it is animal, or whether it is human being. Like bricks make the building, same way cells make a living organism. Now each cell is not same, means they will not have the same shape, same size, it varies. So according to the function they do, their shape may vary, their size, their number may vary. So that all you will be learning about in detail in your 8th class. But till then you should be knowing some basic things about cell. One thing is this outer boundary. You must be seeing there are two boundaries here. One inside, the inner boundary of the cell is called as cell membrane. This is the inner boundary. In all the cells, these are 4 cells here. So the inner boundary of these cells is called as cell membrane. Then this rounded structure, dark rounded structure in each, that is called as nucleus. The dark rounded structure in each of the cell is called as nucleus, and the substance which is surrounding the nucleus and present inside the cell membrane, the substance which is between the nucleus and the cell membrane is called as cytoplasm. This cytoplasm is basically a jelly-like substance, and it will hold the nucleus in its position, and there are other things also present in this that you will be learning in detail in your higher classes. Now here in this class you need not to learn about the second boundary, but when you are drawing this, then you must be drawing this second boundary also. This second boundary is called as cell wall, and this boundary is present only in plants. If you must be drawing the diagram of an animal cell, then you need not to draw this outer boundary. Then you will be drawing only the inner boundary, means cell membrane will be every time present. It protects each cell from the outer surroundings. Then nucleus will be present in all the cells. Then cytoplasm will be present in all the cells, but cell wall will be present only in the plant cells. It will not be found in the animal cells. In this chapter, the diagram given in your chapter is of plant cell, that is why it is showing the double boundary. So the outer boundary is of the cell wall. So this you need to learn more in detail, because until you are not knowing what is the base of a living organism, you will not be able to understand what is further happening. So practice this diagram and understand it properly. Let us read about the autotrophic mode of nutrition in detail, and for this we need to know about a process which is called as photosynthesis. This is the most important process on our planet Earth. Now photo means light and synthesis means to produce. So basically it is a process where light is required to produce food item or to produce something which is later used as food by the organisms. Now this process occurs in the leaves of plants and are also called as food factories because of their ability to produce food for the whole plant. Now food is prepared in the leaves and then it is being transported to all parts of the plant wherever it is required. Leaves are also sometimes referred as kitchen of the plant because these prepare food for the whole plant and supply it to all parts of the plant. Now what is this process photosynthesis actually? There are certain conditions required for the process of photosynthesis, which are essential conditions, and in the presence of those conditions only, the process of photosynthesis will occur. So I'll let you know about those conditions and keep in mind those conditions, because this topic of photosynthesis, once you have learned now, it will be forever in your mind. And it is a very important topic, photosynthesis, till your 10th class, when you will be reading about other things. Then you will be learning about photosynthesis also in detail. Essential conditions which are required for the process of photosynthesis. One thing is, you must be having carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a gas which is released by the plants as well as animals, human beings, everybody. So this is the main thing. Then we need to have water. We need to have sunlight. This process of photosynthesis always occurs in the presence of sunlight only. Means during the day hours. After the sun has set, then there will be no process of photosynthesis occurring. It will not continue at all, and it will again begin the next day when sun rises. So after this, we need another thing that is very important, that is chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment. Pigment is something or the substance which gives color. So here chlorophyll, it is a pigment, green in color. So this is because of this chlorophyll, the leaves we see on the trees or on the plants that have green color. Now this is one of the important aspects required for the process of photosynthesis. We have carbon dioxide, water, sunlight and chlorophyll. These all are required for carrying out the process of photosynthesis. So how this process of photosynthesis occurs? This is the process of photosynthesis. Now with the help of this diagram, you can understand it better. Here is a plant and the roots of the plants are inside the soil. So in the leaf of the plant, there is chlorophyll present, and in the atmosphere, we have carbon dioxide gas, and sun is giving light energy to the plant. And the roots of the plants will take water and minerals from the soil. Now in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll in the leaf, carbon dioxide will react with water and it will lead to the formation of carbohydrate and oxygen. Now this is the reaction. Here we need sunlight. I will be writing in detail also, and chlorophyll. Both the things should be written on arrows. Okay, so this is the process which occurs. This is carbon dioxide, this is water, then we have carbohydrate and oxygen. During the process of photosynthesis, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from the soil and minerals also, these are being taken up by the plants, and in the leaf, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, this carbon dioxide gas is converted into this carbohydrate and oxygen. Now oxygen gas is released in the atmosphere and is later used by all the living organisms for their breathing, like human beings also, animals also. And carbohydrate is stored in the leaves of the plant. From there, this carbohydrate is being sent to all other parts of the plant, and those part of the plants will utilize it as energy. Now this reaction I will write in detail so that you will understand it better, and you must be learning this reaction and understanding why this chlorophyll and sunlight are important and how carbohydrate is being formed. If you are supposed to write the equation, like if question comes, then you have to write the photosynthesis equation, then you need to write this equation. This equation I am writing: carbon dioxide Then we need water. Here we have to take chlorophyll, then sunlight, and it will lead to the formation of carbohydrate plus oxygen. Okay, this is the complete equation. You can write it in both the ways. You can write it like this also. Whether you are writing sunlight on the top or chlorophyll at the bottom, it hardly matters. Both should come on the arrows. Okay, and this is the carbohydrate plus oxygen. So this is the equation in both the ways. Like now it will be easy for you to write. This is the equation in both the ways, so that you can easily write that carbohydrate is stored in the leaves of the plant and oxygen is released in the atmosphere, which is used by all living organisms. Now this reaction, like carbohydrate, now you must be thinking what carbohydrate is formed here. The main form of carbohydrate which is formed, this is the simplest carbohydrate form, that is glucose. But this is later stored in the form of starch. It is given in your book also. The stored form of carbohydrate in the leaves is starch, and we do the starch test only for finding out whether the process of photosynthesis was actually occurring in that particular plant or not. When it is formed, it is glucose. When it is stored, it becomes starch. So that starch test with iodine is being done to detect the presence of whether photosynthesis process was happening or no. So now it is clear to you what is the process of photosynthesis and how it occurs in the leaves of the plant where chlorophyll is present. One more thing you must be knowing while understanding the process of photosynthesis is the stomata. Now carbon dioxide, as we have told, it is being taken up by the leaves from the atmosphere and it is releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. How this process is happening, which part of the plant or which part of the leaf actually does this, that is the stomata. Stomata are basically the pores which are present on the surface of the leaf. These can be present on the upper surface of the leaf as well as at the lower surface of the leaf. Now these stomata are basically pores. Like this is the pore, this is the stomatal pore. We call it stomatal pore or stomatal opening, and through this exchange of gases, which are carbon dioxide and oxygen, takes place. Now the cells which are just surrounding the pore, these are called as guard cells. Guard, as the name indicates, they just protect. So same way they protect this pore. So when the exchange of gases takes place, that time this pore becomes open and it will allow the gas to enter as well as allow gas to move out. And when there is no exchange of gases required, then this pore becomes closed. It will become very thin and then it will not be appearing only, that will appear as that now the pore, this is the pore part which I am telling you. This pore is responsible for exchange of gases, which are carbon dioxide and oxygen in the case of process of photosynthesis. So these are present all over scattered on the leaf. Here this I have just took a cross section of this so that you can easily understand. This circle is drawn here and inside the circle what is visible, that I have drawn in detail. Now this stomata plays the most important role in the leaf. More of the stomata, obviously they will help in the exchange of gases. Rather stomata perform another function also. They also help in the process of transpiration, which you have read in your 6th class. That transpiration means evaporation of water vapor through the surface of the leaf. So stomata have two main functions. One is they help in the process of photosynthesis by the exchange of gases. Means the main function is they help in exchange of these two main gases. And second thing they do is they carry out transpiration. That is the evaporation of water vapor through the surface of leaves. These two processes are because of the stomata. Here I am showing you certain leaves. These leaves are basically differently colored. All these leaves you will notice they will have different colors, like this also, then this also. Means these are not totally green. These are not completely green. It means there is something present in these which is not chlorophyll. Because chlorophyll gives green color, but these leaves have different colors also. So what are these leaves called? Variegated leaves. The term used for these leaves is variegated leaves. Variegated means variety. And here these leaves are having variety of colors. So the leaves with a variety of colors is called as a variegated leaf. And here you must be thinking then, how the process of photosynthesis occurs in such leaf. If these leaves are not having sufficient amount of chlorophyll, but the answer is these leaves also carry out the process of photosynthesis in the same way as other leaves, because chlorophyll is present in them, but it is sometimes being overlapped by other colors also. Other colors means like some leaves are having red pigment, some leaves are having this purple pigment also, some are having yellow also. So the presence of chlorophyll is there, and that allows the process of photosynthesis. Other leaves, they just overlap each other and give different colors to the leaf. So these leaves look very beautiful, but still they carry out the process of photosynthesis. So this is variegated leaf. This term is not given in your NCERT, but there was a question asked by Bujo that what about the plants which have variety of colors on their leaves, but can they do photosynthesis? Yes, those leaves also carry out the process of photosynthesis because of the presence of chlorophyll along with other pigment in them. You might have seen some slimy patches on water bodies, or sometimes even on the surface also, where there is lot of moisture or water remains standing for long. That is the algae. Now algae is also having ability to produce its own food because of the presence of chlorophyll in it. As chlorophyll is the green pigment which is important for carrying out the process of photosynthesis, because algae also have chlorophyll, so it also produces its own food. So when you are writing the autotrophs, then one main autotroph we consider is the plants. These are the main autotrophs. Then we can write algae also. Algae is the plural. If you write singular, then it is alga. So never get confused that you are writing wrong spellings. So these are just singular or plural only. So autotrophs are basically the plants which carry out the process of photosynthesis, as well as the algae which carry out the process of photosynthesis. So this way they produce their own food and keep on growing and multiplying very fast, and they very fast cover a water body where they have once started growing. Now here we understand one activity which will help you to show sunlight is important for photosynthesis. Now how you can perform this activity? You have to take two potted plants. Two potted plants, approximately same plants if you will take, it is far better, and they should be of same size also. Take two potted plants, place one in the dark and other in sun for 72 hours. Okay, when you will keep them for 72 hours, you will notice that this one obviously will not get sunlight, so there will be no photosynthesis. This you know, as you have read about photosynthesis. But if you want to prove this, how you will prove this? What you have to do, you have to take leaf from each and then take alcohol in a beaker and place it on a water bath. Water bath, like any container, you will say. Take a tripod stand and this is Bunsen burner. And place your beaker with the leaf in this. Separately you have to do this, both the beakers. Now in the beaker there is alcohol and leaf, and in the water bath you have water. Now let it heat for some time. Alcohol we never put directly on the flame, the reason being it will catch fire. So to avoid that, we just place it on a water bath. Inside that there will be water, and let it heat with the help of the heat present of in the water. Now after some time, stop heating. After some time you will notice that there will be some green color coming out in this. Now this green color is required to be removed because we have to perform iodine test. Iodine test, as you have read in your 6th class, this test gives blue-black color. So green color will cause disturbance with that. So this is the reason we just decolorize this so that chlorophyll will not cause any problem in the test. Now both the leaves you have taken from this plant and this plant, they are to be decolorized, and then you will perform iodine test. You will notice that in the leaf which we have took from the darkness, which was kept for 72 hours, there will be no blue-black color. No blue-black color in this case, and this leaf will show the presence of blue-black color on putting drop of iodine solution on the leaf after taking out from this alcohol and then washing it with water. When we will put 2-3 drops of iodine solution, blue-black color will appear in case of the plant which was kept in sunlight for 72 hours, and no blue-black color in case of the plant which was kept in dark for 72 hours. Again, if you want to cross-check that whether this thing is true or no, you keep this plant again for 72 hours in sunlight. Then keep in sun after doing this, and then do the same activity with the leaf. Now you will notice that there will be blue-black color on putting iodine solution drops on the leaf. Now it means because of the sunlight, the process of photosynthesis has again started happening, and it has led to the presence of starch in the leaf. So this is the reason it is giving blue-black color when it is kept in sunlight again after keeping in shade for 72 hours. Hope now you can easily understand that what is the importance of sunlight in the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis helps in the synthesis of carbohydrate. Now carbohydrate is one important component of food, means one of the important nutrient that is required by the plants. But what about other components? There are other nutrients also which are required by the plants. These nutrients are like proteins, then these are fats, and there are so many, means minerals and vitamins. Now, how the plants synthesize these proteins and fats? Protein is basically a nitrogen-rich compound. It has sufficient amount of nitrogen. So, protein is formed only when there is presence of nitrogen. So, how it can be formed? Plants are not having ability to take nitrogen from atmosphere, because if they could have been taking, we have sufficient amount of nitrogen present in atmosphere. That is approximately 78%, 78 point something. So if plants could have been taking that nitrogen, so there could have been no problem, but they are not taking that nitrogen. there are certain bacteria. Bacteria means certain microorganisms which are present in the soil, and certain microorganisms which are present in the soil, and they have the ability to convert the atmospheric nitrogen, the nitrogen which is present in atmosphere, and convert it into usable form in the soil. Now when this usable form is present in soil, then obviously it can be taken up by the plants through the roots. When water and minerals are taken up, then this usable form of nitrogen is also taken up by the plants. Now plants take this nitrogen and later convert it into proteins, which are also very important for the growth of plants. As these are important for the growth of animals also, for human beings also, same way proteins are also important for the growth of plants. So proteins are formed by this process. But sometimes you might have noticed also there are certain farmers who apply these fertilizers in their field. This is because their soil is not properly rich in nitrogen, so they need to apply nitrogen in the form of fertilizer so that the plants which are growing in that particular soil, they will grow healthy. This is the reason they add fertilizer in the soil to fulfill the requirement of nitrogen. Now second mode of nutrition is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Now this mode of nutrition, as I told before also, that hetero means other and trophic means to synthesize. Means the organisms which are not having ability to synthesize their own food but take the food which is synthesized by other organisms. So here we are talking about heterotrophic mode of nutrition, which are in the 4 ways. There are 4 ways for heterotrophic mode of nutrition. One is parasitic mode of nutrition. Broadly it is heterotrophic mode of nutrition, but these are the subtypes. So then we have insectivorous mode of nutrition. Then we have saprotrophic mode of nutrition. And symbiotic mode of nutrition. These are the 4 main modes of nutrition under heterotrophic mode of nutrition, which we are going to study in detail. Now all these are the mode of nutrition in which the organism derive nutrition from other. But there are certain which can produce their own food also, but along with the process of preparing their own food, they rely on the process of taking food from other organisms, because maybe they are not getting all the food requirement or all the nutrient requirement by producing their own food. So to get the other nutrients, they are relying on other organisms. So we will be reading about all these 4 in detail. What are the parasitic mode of nutrition, what is this insectivorous mode of nutrition, then we have saprotrophic mode of nutrition and symbiotic mode of nutrition. Parasitic mode of nutrition. This is a type of heterotrophic mode of nutrition, and one very common example of this is cuscuta. We also call it as amarvel in Hindi, and it is also called as dodder. So this is a plant which is having very tubular, yellow, creamish, tubular structures which are very easily spreading on the plants. Wherever a small part of it will be falling, then ultimately it will grow completely and will cover the whole plant or tree with that tubular structure. Now that tubular structure is its stem, and it has roots which are called as haustoria. Now these roots, they pierce or just enter in the plant on which these cuscata are climbing, and they suck nutrients from there. So this cuscata is the plant which is called as parasite. Parasite because it is taking nutrients from the other organism and harming that organism. And the organism from which this parasite takes nutrient is called as host. So cuscata is the parasite, and wherever it climbs, whether it is a small plant or a tree, that is called as its host. So it is sucking all the nutrients from the host plant and depriving host of all its nutrients, and ultimately that host may even die also. Means the plant will completely dry up and will die. So parasitic mode of nutrition is generally that mode of nutrition in which one organism is harming other organism, and sometimes it harms to a level that it will ultimately lead to the death of the host plant. So parasitic mode of nutrition is a relationship between parasite and host. So in this case, host is getting no benefit, rather it is harmed, whereas parasite is getting all the benefit. And this is the reason parasite is surviving on the host. So this is the parasitic mode of nutrition, very commonly seen on cuscata. We have another example also of this parasitic plant, and that is mistletoe. Mistletoe is other plant which is called as parasitic plant, and it is having, basically it is called as partial parasite. Partial means it is not completely parasite, but somehow it carries out its process of photosynthesis also, and it also depends upon some host to fulfill its requirement of some nutrients which it cannot get by the process of photosynthesis which it carries out. Parasitic organisms can also be categorized as plant parasites, which I have just told you. The parasites which are the plants, those are called as plant parasites, and examples are like cuscata and mistletoe. Then we have animal parasites also. Animal parasites are the parasites which are working in the same manner, but these are animals. Like bugs we have lices. Because these bugs or lices, they live on the body of human beings or animals. They suck nutrients, means we call them, they suck blood also. They take their nutrients from the living organisms, and they ultimately grow by themselves. The organism on which these bugs live, that is the host, that is not getting any benefit. Rather it is becoming very uncomfortable, and they sometimes get disease also. So they may lead to the harm to the host, and in this case they may lead to the benefit of themselves. So these are the parasites, and they harm the host. So these are the two types of parasitic organisms: plant parasites and animal parasites. Second mode of nutrition is Insectivores. Now, as the name indicates, there is some role of insects in this. So there are certain plants which are having ability to eat insects. Now you will feel amazed that are there plants which are eating insects? Yes, there are certain plants which eat insects, and the reason is because they are not getting all their nutrients by the process of photosynthesis. So photosynthesis process is carried out by every plant which have leaves, and the leaves have chlorophyll. So then it will be easy for them to carry out the process of photosynthesis. But sometimes the plants are not getting sufficient amount of nitrogen. Now to fulfill the requirement of nitrogen, the symbol for nitrogen is N. So to fulfill that requirement, these plants, they eat insects, because insects are rich source of proteins, and proteins are basically made up of nitrogen. So these plants which have the mode of nutrition in which they eat insects are called as insectivorous plants. And there are few examples for such insectivorous plants, like one is pitcher plant. It is in the shape of a pitcher. And another we have sundew. This is also an insectivorous plant. Then we have Venus flytrap. So these are few examples of insectivorous plants. In your book, pitcher plant is explained in detail, that how pitcher plant is functioning and how it takes the nutrients from the insects. Now this is the figure of pitcher plant. Now in this figure, you will notice that like this is the stem of the plant and there is a leaf, and later there is at the apex there is some part which is turned into pitcher. Now this pitcher is basically formed by the leaf which has modified, and at the tip of the this leaf, that is the apex, there is a lid. This lid is basically to open and close this opening. This is the opening. Now as soon as an insect will sit, whether on the wall here, it will immediately fall inside the pitcher because of some secretions. There will be the hair in the inner side. These are in the inner side of the pitcher, and as the insect will come down, it slides down deep inside here. Inside this pitcher, there are the digestive juices which will completely digest the insect and will release secretions from it. That secretions are afterwards being taken up through this and will taken up by the plant. Now when the insect sits here, then immediately this lid will close by sensing it. Yes, something is there and it will just close. And the insect once has entered here will not be able to move out because the direction of the hair is this. If the insect will try to come out, then these hair, they will just pack like this. They will close it and will not allow it to move out. This is the reason the insect which is trapped in the pitcher of this pitcher plant will ultimately die only. It has no mechanism to escape out. So this plant can show an autotrophic mode of nutrition because it has these leaves also which have chlorophyll, so it will carry out autotrophic mode of nutrition. But to fulfill the requirement of nitrogen in them, they are carrying out insectivorous mode of nutrition also. Now why generally they lack nitrogen? Because these are found mostly in the areas where soil is not rich in nitrogen. So obviously soil will have deficiency of nitrogen. So to fulfill their requirement, because each organism, each plant have the requirements which are same. They also need carbohydrate, they also need protein. So to fulfill that requirement, they have modified themselves in this way, and ultimately they will fulfill all the requirement of nitrogen. After insectivorous mode of nutrition, we have saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Now this is also a kind of heterotrophic mode of nutrition. For this, first I just want to ask you that all of you might have seen packets of mushroom. So your answer will be yes, everybody has seen, because it is also cooked as vegetable. But can you just take a mushroom which is growing in wild, like in rainy season, if you notice in the gardens or playgrounds, there will be tiny structures growing like this. But can you just pick it up and eat? No, because you might be scared that it is edible or no. So what is this? What is this structure called? This structure is called as mushroom. And mushrooms which we cook as vegetables are edible one and brought from the market. But when you see this structure, you will notice that the structure is usually white colored, off-white colored, a little light brown, means it will have varying colors which are lighter in shade. It has no green color. You will not find any green color in this. Now, if it has no green color, then how it is growing? How it takes its food? Because it cannot carry out the process of photosynthesis. So, it is taking out its food from the soil. But how from the soil? This is the soil part here. So it takes its food from this. It takes its food from the dead and decaying matter which is present in the soil. And how it takes? It is having ability to release certain digestive juices on the dead and decaying matter, and these digestive juices will ultimately convert the dead and decaying matter into solution form, and this solution is then absorbed by the fungus. This is a type of fungus only. Mushroom is a type of fungus. So it is taken up by the fungus. So this way it grows. Now, because in the rainy season there is sufficient amount of moisture, moisture is also required for doing this dissolution process. So because of more moisture in rainy season, these mushrooms will grow more in the rainy season. Now, same in the case of like an activity is given in your book. In the activity it is told that you have to take a piece of bread, moist it, and then just keep at a warm place for 2 to 3 days. After 2 to 3 days, you will notice that there will be some patches started growing. Some will be of black color, some will be of green color. These will start growing, and now your bread is not edible. It is not good to eat. These patches are basically the patches of fungus growing on it, which have grown because of the humidity in the atmosphere as well as the high temperature. High means not very high, means when the fungus has to grow, it needs a little high temperature and moisture in the atmosphere. Now, how it grows, how it comes out suddenly, it means our bread was having fungus earlier also, and then why you are eating that bread. So then don't worry for that. Your bread is not having that fungus which is just spoiling the bread. It is because of the fungal spores which are every time present in our atmosphere. Now, these fungal spores, as I told you, these are every time present in air as they get suitable conditions like wet and warm conditions, and on landing on a suitable surface, they will start growing, and ultimately they will grow very fast, and sometimes they completely degrade the matter on which they are growing. Like if you have ever seen your leather objects, shoes made up of leather, your purses made up of leather, and even your jackets which are made up of leather, during rainy season they will also have fungus on them. So that basically is because of the fungal spores which are every time present in air, and as they get suitable condition, they start growing very fast and will totally degrade the leather object. So we should take special care of all our objects that they should be kept in some dry places where the moisture content is low, so that these things will not be spoiled. And this mode of nutrition, which is taken up by the fungus as well as the mushroom, which is a type of fungus only, that is called as saprotropic mode of nutrition. So, saprotropic mode of nutrition is the one in which the organism feeds on dead and decaying matter by releasing some digestive juices and then converting that dead and decaying matter into soluble form, which can be easily taken up by the organisms. Then there is also a question asked in the cloud given on the page, that are the fungus always harmful? Because sometimes they even spoil the plants also. in the fields also the fungus will grow on the plants and will totally spoil the your crop. So that is also a problem. It means fungus is of no use. Fungus can also cause disease also. So fungus can be harmful, but there are certain fungus which are beneficial. One is the mushroom, as I have already told you, it is edible, and then another one is yeast. Yeast is also a type of fungus which is used in baking industry, where we use to make the cakes or pastries or your bhaturas, where you want some sponginess. There we are using yeast, and yeast is edible. It is causing no harm. We will be discussing about symbiotic mode of nutrition. Now this is also an important mode of nutrition, because one importance of this is here the two organisms which are in close association both benefit each other. Means, like we have read in parasitic mode of nutrition, one organism is getting benefit and another is getting harm. In case of your insectivorous mode of nutrition also, one organism is getting harm. And in your saprotropic mode of nutrition also, one organism is getting benefit, the other one is already dead. But in this case, symbiotic mode of nutrition, both the organisms, they will get benefit. And a very common example of this, which you will be reading in this chapter, is the lichen. Lichen is one such organism which is actually a symbiotic association between alga and fungus. Here also I told before also, alga is the singular, and if algae is there, that means it is plural. Same way fungus is the singular, and if it is fungi, then that is plural. So here one alga and one fungus, they live in close association with each other, and that is called as lichens. Now what they do? Alga is having chlorophyll. I told you before also, because it is having chlorophyll, so it will prepare food for both of them. And fungus provides shelter. Means it is the fungus on which the alga will grow, and because it provides shelter, along with it will keep some moisture also there. Moisture will also help in preparation of food. So in this way, they both benefit each other, and this type of association where both the organisms benefit each other, that mode of nutrition is called as symbiotic mode of nutrition. So lichen means alga and fungus, they are showing symbiosis. Means they are living in close association with each other and both are helping each other. Other way around also they can survive. Alga is having ability to prepare food, so it can survive. But in nature we found certain combinations like this also, where they two live together also and will form another organism which is called as lichen. So generally these lichens grow on the moist places. Somewhere you can notice these lichens even growing on the rocks also. Somewhere these lichens are growing on the bark of the trees. So lichen is an example of a organism which is showing symbiotic relationship. Now the last topic of the chapter is how nutrients are replenished. Now we are again and again reading about nutrition in plants, and nutrients are being taken up by the plants from the soil. So when they are continuously taking, obviously they will be finished somehow. So how these are being replenished? Replenished means how again they are being maintained in the same quantity as they were before. So one way of doing that is using manure, or by using fertilizers. Fertilizers are nutrient rich substances which are prepared in the factories. So either you use manure. When you are using manure, then it is considered better, but fertilizers can also be used. Now fertilizers are basically nutrient specific. If you need to put more of nitrogen, then you can put nitrogen fertilizer. If you need to put more of potassium, then you can use potassium fertilizer. So there are three main nutrients which are required, that is N, P and K. That is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. These three are required by the crops. So these three are being provided through fertilizers by the farmers or by the gardeners who are using at small scale like in their lawns. Then another way of replenishing this nutrient is by using certain plants which have ability to do this. Now you must be thinking how plants can help in replenishing, rather plants are taking up all the nutrients. So there are certain plants like leguminous plants. And what are these leguminous plants? The plants like pulses, your peas, your gram, these are leguminous plants. Now these plants, leguminous plants, are having a bacteria in their root nodules. Nodules means rounded structure, like if this is the root, so it will be the root nodule. So in this root nodule there will be a bacteria which is called as rhizobium, and this bacteria is having ability to take nitrogen from the atmosphere and then convert that nitrogen into soluble form. And where it will keep? It will just allow that to be present in the soil in the surrounding. Now once the crop is harvested, there will be sufficient amount of nitrogen in that particular soil where we have grown the leguminous plants. So next time when the farmer is growing some other crop which is requiring more of the nitrogen, then farmer is not supposed to put nitrogen fertilizer. It is fulfilled by the nitrogen which is already being stored or being sent in the soil by the action of nitrogen fixing this rhizobium bacteria. So that is another way by which plants are replenishing the amount of nitrogen. This can be done with the help of this rhizobium. So but rhizobium also you can categorize as the symbiotic relationship between leguminous plants and root nodules of these plants, that is also showing symbiotic relationship, because here both are benefiting each other. Leguminous plant is getting nitrogen, whereas rhizobium plant is getting shelter to stay in the root nodules. So this is how leguminous plants are helpful for the replenishing of nitrogen in the soils.